Hello and welcome to the Construction Record Podcast. I'm digital media editor Warren Frey. On Wednesday, June 7th, more than 140 volunteers, including myself, were at the Lark In shelter in San Francisco for AEC Cares, for hashtag Project San Francisco, a one-day blitz build to renovate the living and gathering spaces in a building that served at-risk young adults in the Bay Area for over 20 years. I spoke to several of the key stakeholders throughout the day. First, here's my talk with AEC Cares President Jen Johnson, followed by Sherilyn Adams, the Executive Director of Larkin Street Youth Services. First off, can you tell me why AEC Cares is your favorite day of the year, as you said in your opening remarks?
AEC Cares is my favorite day of the year because on no other day do I get to pull together with a huge community of people who have come out for one specific purpose, and that is transforming a space so that someone else's life will be better. The remarkable changes that you can see in a space from the time we walk in to the time we leave, it's just undescribable. We're going to see a complete renovation today, and it's all because 140 people gave up their Wednesday to come to the Lark In and just spend time with colleagues, make some new friends, and do work for other people. That feeling you get in your heart is just an outpouring of love and of joy, and it makes me feel like no other day of the year, and it's why it's my favorite day.
What's the game plan for today?
So today we have a lot to tackle. So the Lark In is a transitional shelter for folks who have aged out of the foster care system. So they specialize in young adults who are age 18 to 24, who are looking for permanent housing, who are looking for work to support their lifestyle. So today we are renovating dormitory areas. So we have 36 residents here. We're renovating all of the dormitory spaces. We're building some new furniture for them. We're painting a ton of stuff. We've got murals going on. We've got wall painting going on. We've had new floors laid in all of our common areas. We have a social space that we're renovating, so a place where these young adults can kind of hang out and watch TV and be with others in fellowship and enjoy a meal. And then we have an entryway that we're renovating as well. So that's where people can actually come and check in. We're actually building walls. You can hear them in the background. There's active construction going on here today. We're going to try and get everything wrapped up by early afternoon so we can get a good cleaning and a good reset before the residents come back at 5 o'clock this evening.
So what are the young people who stay at the Larkin Street, what are they going to see when they walk in at 5 p.m. today?
When the residents come back this afternoon, what they will be experiencing is a completely renovated space. When they come in through the entryway, it will no longer be an abandoned elevator shaft and an empty space. It'll have a warm, welcoming reception area. There will be bright colored murals on the wall that are age appropriate. A lot of different organizations have come through and they have, kind of put their mark on the Lark In. And so there are a whole bunch of fun murals that were just not appropriate for young adults. So we've really worked with our design team to embrace some trauma design. So really inserting design that makes you feel more calm and more safe and more peaceful. So we're going to see that when they come in. They'll be welcomed by some big murals. They're going to get some new televisions. They'll see new furniture in the spaces. All new flooring will be revealed. So we're really excited about that. And then in the actual dormitory areas, everything will be painted. We're painting headboards on the walls. We have rearranged the furniture, so we actually have matching sets together, which, seems like something that you'd always have, but that's not necessarily what was going on. So we've got that happening. And then after we leave, we actually have new mattresses coming for the residents and new pillows. They'll have all new linens today. So it'll just be a complete makeover. Honestly, they've been very generous in living in a little bit of a transitional state for us as we did prep work for the last week. So we're really excited to give them a space to settle into when they return this afternoon.
You mentioned Larkin Street's partners. Who are some of the people working with ConstructConnect on this project today?
Right. So AEC Cares is a nonprofit, and the only way that it is able to survive is because of partnerships and sponsorships. So ConstructConnect is actually the company who originated AEC Cares. We did that in partnership with AIA, the American Institute of Architects. So AIA and ConstructConnect are both represented here. We've got a ton of volunteers from both organizations. And then we work with a pro bono design team. So we have an entire team from Gensler, from Whiting Turner, from DPR, and many more who are all here. They're serving as team leads and as construction leads on the project this afternoon. And then we have sponsors who gave products. So someone like Shaw Contract gave all of our flooring. And then, we have other folks who are donating cash. So someone like USG generally is donating acoustical towels for us. They've been a longtime sponsor. This project just couldn't use their product. So instead they give a very generous donation. So we are excited to have many of our sponsors here and representing. And in fact, you'll see in some of the video footage, there's a team with bright blue shirts on Mapei. They always make their own shirts and bring them. It's so fun to see what their design is year after year. And really, we could not pull this project off without all of our sponsors and all of our partners.
Now, this is one day, but it's a 365-day effort to get this day to happen. Maybe you could go into some detail about that.
We always say the AEC Cares is the one day that is a year in the making. It takes a lot of work to get here. So while we bring everyone together for a day, we also do a prep day the day before. There's generally some subcontractor work that goes on for about a week before. But honestly, the biggest part of this starts the day after the AIA National Convention. That's where we know where the next project is going to be. So for 2024, we'll be in Washington, D.C. First thing we have to do is pull together a design team, find a project, and start scoping it out. So we have to start very early in the year, identifying the right nonprofit, identifying the right space, identifying the right scope of project, the right partners to bring in as designers and as constructors. And then we've got to work on the sponsorships. We have to figure out what kind and how much of each product we're asking for from a donation perspective. We've got to do fundraising to get the right budget. This year we had a goal of fundraising $50,000. We came in at just over $60,000. So we're able to add some additional things to the Lark In project, which we are ecstatic about. Every year we try and spend everything that we fundraise so that charity gets the maximum benefit from their AEC Cares experience. It truly is a 365-day-a-year endeavor that manifests itself on a single 24-hour period.
Okay, Jen, thanks for joining us. And I'd like to start with how you and AEC Cares got involved and planned this whole thing out, because it's not just one day. Like, this was a huge day, but it's not just one day, it's a whole year beforehand.
Yeah, so I think AEC Cares reached out to Kevin, our director of facilities, and they connected and decided to explore it. And then our teams got together and started working on this idea to remodel, redo the Lark In, our shelter. And I think I've been working on it now for quite a while. The program team, the development team, and Kevin and Laura, and it's just been amazing.
Larkin Street Youth Services isn't just this facility, it's a whole series of facilities. But let's focus on this facility at first. What's sort of the background and history of this facility? Because it looks like an old building. And what does it take to change that around like we did today?
Yeah, so we started renting this building where the Lark In is, our shelter, in 2000. So we opened the first shelter for transition-aged youth, one of the first shelters in the country probably. So in the spot that got remodeled today. And then about 10 years ago or so, we bought the building, and that included the Lark In shelter and this space that we're standing in here now, which is like an open space that used to be a business. And this space will become a drop-in center, health and wellness center for young people. But the Lark In, our shelter, is for 18 to 24-year-olds who are experiencing homeless, and it's an emergency shelter.
And so what were some of the logistics? Because in addition to everybody coming in here and tearing it down and building it back up again, you had to, for the first time, and this must go, it's kind of anathema to what you do, tell people they couldn't come in for a little while. So how do you navigate around that sort of circumstance?
Yeah, so 40 young people live in the shelter, and we have other housing throughout that we offer, that Larkin Street offers. So we worked really hard for any open unit that we had to move young people into those units. We did have to stop taking in new young people in the beginning of May. So our team worked really hard to find temporary solutions for them through an emergency hotel stay or through the Tay Navigation Center. But it did mean that for a period of time, we weren't able to bring new young people in for that 2 weeks leading up to this. Yeah.
And so what's next for Larks In? Now that this has happened, what do you do next? Does this help you? I mean, obviously it does help you with accommodation of people, but what does it change?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, it creates for young people, it offers their first, for some first time coming into a shelter, into housing, it offers a very safe, stable, and beautiful place to be. Our next hope is that we're going to be able to get this drop-in space and health and wellness space to look as wonderful as that. And then, we have lots of housing throughout the city and in Berkeley, so we're always looking to expand housing and have more options for young people.
Next, we have Nikki Stephens, the Executive Vice President of the California chapter of the American Institute of Architects. I'd like to ask how is the American Institute of Architects California? What's their role in all this?
We are so proud to be partners with AEC Cares in this renovation of Larkin Inn. We are the community partner representing both San Francisco and the 11,000 members of AIA in California, but we're also working hard in collaboration with others in the AEC industry.
And this is, the way AEC Cares works is it happens in conjunction with the AIA's annual conference. So maybe you could speak to how this meshes with the conference and what your role is with that as well.
AEC Cares has over a decade of experience in putting together these wonderful community service projects in advance of the AIA's conference on architecture. We are involved this year specifically as it's in California, and we're happy to be partners here in San Francisco with AEC Cares to bring together both the architectural profession as well as other members in the AEC community.
And since your side of it is design, maybe you could speak to how you delegated responsibility and sort of figured out all the design roles to tackle this project.
The design team was brought on very early on, and it was a real collaboration between a number of firms, from DLR Group to CRB to Stantec and Gensler. They all really came together at the beginning in a collaborative way to assess the challenges and come up with innovative solutions. AIA California really believes that in the power of design to change the built environment, to make an impact and solve some of the big issues that we're all facing, as citizens in the state and in our local communities.
And finally, architecture is so is construction, a gradual profession. You're not going to see results within a day. Here you are going to see results within a day. So maybe you could speak to what it's like to walk in and see all your design work, and in a day, bam, it's there. We
talk a lot about the transformation that's happening in this project, and it does seem like a little bit of magic that, the amazing amount of work that gets done in a relatively short amount of time. But it is, it's important to remember that this didn't happen in 24, 48 hours. This is the result of a lot of people's efforts over a number of months. And it is a real testament, though, that you bring 140 people together all on one day who can actually pitch in, roll up their sleeves, and make a noticeable difference. And I think it's a true testament to the power of the AEC industry to come in, solve a problem, and be able to leave this setting in such a wonderful state at the end.
Finally, we get into the design and day of construction challenges of the project. First with lead designer Abigail Jones, and then with Cara Warren, a design manager with Whiting Turner, the general contractor on the project. So Abby, maybe you could talk first about how you got involved with this project.
How I got started with this project is actually a great question. Through some connections, a friend of a colleague, I was introduced to Laura Marlowe, one of the original founders of AEC Cares. She requested to set up a call to see if I would be interested in supporting the design team effort. After speaking with her for about 15 minutes, her energy and passion for this project was just so infectious that I got excited and had to say yes. And it's been a real pleasure to be able to work with designers from different firms and to be able to lead this team to an amazing finished product for this client.
What are some of the design challenges of this fairly unique space?
Sure. So this space presents a number of challenges. First of all, it has not been renovated in the 20 years that the Lark In has been operational. And so some of the sort of infrastructure was challenging to work around. There are large pipes that are in the way, a number of surface mounted wires that we maybe wouldn't have wanted to do that way. We ended up needing to replace a lot of the existing lighting to make it more consistent, replacing flooring. And one of the main challenges for today's build day was actually figuring out how we were going to get 140 amazing volunteers into a relatively small space. It's a great problem to have when you have too many people for the amount of work to do. But we have folks in there on ladders trying to reach up to high spaces. We worked on flooring, so we've really been giving this space a top to bottom makeover.
What's your experience with this kind of project?
So the Larkin project is not my first pro bono design build kind of blitz day project. At a previous firm that I worked at in Boston, I did about 4 of these types of projects, usually focused on elementary schools. And so I am familiar with the idea that as designers, we have to design things that unskilled laborers like myself can build in a day. Typically, as architects and designers, we are used to designing things that professionals will be building. And so it's been a great learning experience for everyone involved on the project to figure out how we could achieve our design vision with a team of volunteers who are brand new to the project on this day to build it out in about 8 hours.
How do you interface the design, the non-professional volunteers, and the contractors who are very experienced in this sort of thing?
Sure. So we have a number of GC partners working on the project, folks from both Whiting, Turner, and DPR locally, as well as a number of our volunteers come from a construction background. Throughout the design process, we integrated our construction partners very early to help us figure out if our designs could be logistically achieved within the time frame that we have. They were also great partners in helping us find different subcontractors to do some of the work that we needed to do in preparation for the build day. For example, there was a lot of demolition that we wanted completed, cleared out, and prepped prior to volunteers arriving on site. And our contractor partners were great in instrumenting that for us.
What are your hopes for the end result?
Ooh, my hopes for the end of the day are that we accomplish everything we set out to do, and that we give this space a new life. It's been an amazing process so far, even with just the prep days that we've had, to see the space begin to transform. And I'm really excited to see the design that our amazing design teams have come up with come to fruition for this client.
So first I'd ask how Whiting Turner got involved with this particular project in the first place.
Sure, yeah. So Laura Marlowe, the founder of AEC Cares, and one of our EVPs on the East Coast with Whiting Turner, Keith Douglas. They serve on a board of a local nonprofit in Atlanta together. And Keith then referred us out west because that's where the AIA was being held in San Francisco, to our local SVP out here, Damon Ellis, and we then got involved from there.
And this is a little different than most builds in that it's one day, but I assume there's a whole lot of planning that goes into that to make it a day-long building process. With volunteers, you guys are the experienced ones. These are almost all not people with no or very little construction experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So my role as a design manager is to really streamline and bridge the communications between the design and the build effort. So it starts with understanding the design intent, then seeing how we can make that realistic within the schedule, kind of doing a pull planning effort, back planning from where the end product and what that needs to be, and what we need to do to get to that point. So also looking at it from a constructability standpoint, making sure we have the right trade partners involved. So we've had Welker Brothers do our flooring. The product was donated by Shaw. So that was another key piece too, is making sure that we were filling in the gaps of if materials getting furnished, who's installing it, right? So trying to make sure we were all communicating and gearing up for success.
And just in terms of what you specifically did today, like what were some of the biggest challenges, things you had to work around, or things you had to, like, what was the biggest challenges?
Yeah, a lot of big challenge, logistically speaking, working around the constraints of, this is an occupied facility where the youth are living. So understanding when we could access the facility in time and get the right materials in place, like the flooring, so that you could then let it cure in time for the painting. Specifically today, one of the challenges was getting just our Acoustafelt panels adhered to. This is an older building, so the CMU blocks weren't wanting to let us adhere those panels. So a few tape runs, and actually in the end, double-sided tape was our hero.
Oh, okay, and this is not the first time you've done this sort of project. So what are some of the other projects you've done, and how is this one different than those?
Yeah, so Whiting Turner, we've done rebuilding together. Damon Ellis, the local SVP, he is on the board of that nonprofit organization as well. And recently we did a very similar blitz build for in East Palo Alto. It was for kind of rejuvenating, relifting the spirits of an old crack house. And so challenges with that were it was a more residential setting, so being respectful of children. Like here we're in an urban setting, so different types of challenges, but all in all, very similar about teamwork and problem solving and just being open-minded to new solutions.
If you'd like to hear more episodes of the Construction Record Podcast, you can hear us on Apple Music, Amazon Music, and Spotify, as well as on the Daily Commercial News and Journal of Commerce websites. And if you'd like to learn more about AEC Cares, go to aeccares.com and check out hashtag AEC Cares and hashtag Project San Francisco on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Thanks for listening.